Coach Matt Dean over in Memphis, and possibly Franz Beard. Brenden Martin will be checking in with us in the studio, talking a lot of SEC basketball, football, the latest news. Jim Harbaugh looks like he's going to be the coach of the Chargers. How many Michigan players will end up on SEC rosters? That question will be asked. We'll be right back. Get ready.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Well, I watched a lot of basketball last night, like everybody did. You had Florida, Mississippi State, Auburn, Alabama, LSU, and Georgia.
Florida almost lost that game. Florida
Hey.
had that shoot from the line. That got a little bit tight at the end.
Yeah, these games, I mean, the regular season matters, Brenden. People always will say, no, I don't watch till March Madness. If you don't have a good regular season, you're not getting to March Madness. And whatever, It's like this. If you've ever been married and you dated a girl for 6 years and you got married and you had problems, well, nothing changes when you get married. Nothing changes about the regular. If you can't shoot free throws in the regular season, you probably can't shoot them.
It's not like some magic potion comes in. They're like, oh, yeah, you're good. Like all those problems are gone now because you got a ring on your finger.
Yeah. And
I said finger, by the way, because I'm trying to get into the finger.
Well, no, wait a minute. I saw one of the best.
You're coaching me up.
I saw one of the best T-shirts that I've seen up on the Spring River at Riverside Campground. We were getting our canoes ready to go out on the river. Guy had a shirt on, and it said, it was red, white, and blue, and it was Ben Franklin with a do-rag on of an American flag, and it looked like it said Ben Franklin, but it said Ben Drankin. Only. All right,
that's it. We're making T-shirts. We're making Southern Sports Talk T-shirts, and all these little sayings we're putting them in.
Absolutely. Ben Drankin. I love that. Hey, Doug Dean is in Birmingham.
He's in the green room, by the way.
Okay, well, when he's ready, bring him on out here because he is revved up and ready to go. I know he's got a meeting at 8:25, so let's get going.
Here we go.
And we'll talk some basketball. Doug, hey, I know you got a hard out, as it's called, at 8:25, but Brenden Martin, this is our new format, new setup here. We got our producer, and so he'll be in here with us and having fun with us, and then we're going to talk some basketball, football, whatever's on your mind. But one thing I love about Brenden, that I love about Doug, he is the coach. He has always got structure, points he wants to make across, and he is one of the most articulate, and he's a literary giant. So let's get going.
So he's much smarter than us, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Brenden, you look really official, man.
Oh, man, I got it. I've got my dad's Emmy behind me. It's not mine, but I pretend like it's mine. It makes me look official.
Thanks in advance for any Photoshop work you can do to cut about 10 years off my mug here.
Oh, yeah, brother. I got you.
So, Rob, tip of the hat to the Crimson Tide. They got destroyed in Knoxville Saturday. It happens on the brutal road in the SEC. I don't care what team you're facing, and Tennessee looks like, as Coach Pearl said last night, Tennessee's probably playing the best basketball at the moment. But, if you're an Auburn fan, I think you want to get that quad one win last night if you could, but you can't dig a hole of 44 to 30 at the half. And Bruce himself made a few mysterious calls. It's easy to look in the rearview mirror and say, I might do it differently late in the first half, going with Leor Berman to try to guard the best scorer in the SEC. Yeah. So But Bruce, I'm sure he looks at the big picture. He'll say, of the playing all 11 guys, almost come hell or high water, is what got us where we are this year. And I can't start selectively abandoning that. So again, tip the hat to Alabama for coming back. They really battled and guarded the hell out of Auburn the first half. Then Auburn, to their credit, which is something I think Coach Pearl and this team can carry from that, going to the hump at Mississippi State this Saturday. Won't be an easy game there either.
Yeah.
Really physical team. But the Auburn came out and kind of dominated the early segment of the second half, second period. And it's, all you can ask on the road. If you get it within 2, and that's when you got to make some shots. Auburn couldn't. The stat to me, there's always several that stats are for losers, but since Auburn lost, I'll refer to a couple of them. But you can't. The formula could not include last night Aiden Holloway going 0 of 5 from the 3-point line.
Yeah.
Jalen, who's helped us all year long, just having a real off night, 0 of 4 at the 3-point, and then KD 0 of 3 from behind the arc. So you can't shoot like that. You needed to hit 2 or 3 more threes, and Auburn gets out of there with a win. But that's the road in the SEC. And really, because Alabama's got great Ken Pom and other metrics, that game does not, other than pride, that game doesn't hurt Auburn if they can go to Starkville and win and then get back on track.
Yeah, and one of the things, the takeaways from last night, if you're Auburn, you hate losing, but they outscored Alabama by 10 in the second half. They were down 14 at the half. Hostile road environment. And really, I think that's the toughest environment they faced all year, and it's on the road. And the takeaway was they fought like hell to come back. The game went to the very end, and they'll remember that. And I think that speaks well for how Auburn's going to finish, because like we said right before you came on, the regular season, by God, matters, because whatever you do in the regular season, past performance is the best indicator of future performance. So I love your take on it. And, Leo Berman, by the way, I don't know if he's got an NIL deal or not. The kid's from Mountain Brook. He's probably getting a degree in finance or analytics or something. That's what I love about college basketball. And Dylan Cardwell. Dylan Cardwell is one of my favorite Auburn athletes. I don't care in any sport. And I'm throwing Bo Jackson, Pat Sullivan in that crowd. This kid absolutely lives and breathes Auburn. He's what a college athlete. Look, I understand NIL. A lot of this is about just me, but I love that kid, and I love what Bruce Pearl does. He's got it.
Yeah, and then for all, sometimes your good and bad days, your good fortune and misfortune get regrettably plowed into a single day, testing your emotional sturdiness, Rob and Brenden.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was a shocker, but certainly planned in terms of its timing. The on again, off again, commit, decommit, which is typical. 5-star wide receiver Ryan Williams has recommitted. He decommitted when Saban retired, and I don't know why he needed that drama. He could just leave it alone until he finishes visits, but you know how these kids are. And so he's recommitted to Alabama and canceled his Auburn visit. He had already canceled the Texas visit. So I guess we must conclude Mr. Williams, a great wide receiver. I think he's number 5 or 6 overall pick recruit in the 2024 class. We must conclude that you were always a Crimson Tide guy, and we wish you well.
Yeah, and I think he's his kids. His father, we know, played at Auburn. But hell, what does it mean when somebody signs with a school now that they've got a semester tryout because they can jump ship in a heartbeat? I mean, who would have thought at the end of football season that on January the 25th we'd be talking about Quinshon Judkins is a Buckeye, Seth McLaughlin is a Buckeye, and
sure.
Caleb Downs is a Buckeye. So I don't know. I don't think we get that worried about recruiting now. If you get a kid, great. He may stick around for a while. If you don't, you might get him in 3 months.
Yeah, and I will also tip the hat to Coach Kalen DeBoer, that, putting it mildly, with the defections they've had, which really are not fair to Alabama. I may be an Auburn guy, but I know unfair it. And just the way it's set up, that you have a coach leave or retire, it opens this 30-day window for the rest of college football to cannibalize your roster. And so it was huge for the psyche of the fan base and for momentum for DeBoer to secure Ryan Williams, who's probably, then Alabama's got a bunch of other really compelling signees in the 24 class, but Ryan Williams probably had become the greatest fascination and bragging point. And I think it, if you're into this, which fans are, it keeps Alabama in that top 2 or 3 ranking, because Ryan Williams has such star power.
Yeah. Well, he is one of those guys that everybody, if Jason Caldwell, Auburn undercover, said in the 25 season, he thought he would be maybe the number 1 player in all of America. He reclassified, and he's a top 5 or 6, as you mentioned a second ago. Great talent, but it's not like Auburn didn't do well in the receiver. Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, and you've got Malcolm Simmons, and you've got the kid Bryce Kane out of Baker. I mean, those are some really, and Bryce Kane might be the most underrated one of all of them, Doug.
Well, he is, but in fact, there are going to be listeners that want to attribute comments like yours and the one I'm about to make to whistling in the graveyard, because Ryan Williams, he hadn't signed yet, and the way his roller coaster has gone, he could announce that he's doing 2 or 3 more visits before signing day in February. But I think he'll stick with Alabama. But I do think a question Hugh Freeze was going to have, in the offensive brain trust, Derek Nix and Kent Austin, is, man, not that kids get a vote. The offensive system, it's not a democracy where players tell coach how many targets I want to get in the next game. But when you got the backfield Auburn does, and we've kind of proven that we can ground and pound the ball, and you've got not 3 or 4, but 6 or 7 wide receivers plus tight ends, how do you keep everybody happy? So in the long run, if you didn't want to lose Ryan Williams, but if you did, it might all add up to making that task of, not losing 1 or more of these guys in the portal in a year because they're not getting the ball enough. Maybe they can have a very balanced 50-50 run-pass ratio and sort of be the football version, if you will, of what Bruce Pearl is doing, keeping 11 guys happy every single basketball game.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. 2 5s and 2 4s there, but bottom line, Ryan Williams, nobody knows where he's going for sure yet. But I'm with you. And Brenden, you're a Florida guy. We're Auburn guys, but we're on this show. We cover everybody.
Oh, SEC guys, really?
Yeah, we're SEC. We cover college football in the South like kudzu and cotton, and basketball and recruiting and baseball. And so I'll say this: I hate that rule. That is a BS rule, that if a coach leaves, your roster can be cannibalized. I mean, hell, put them on probation. That's like a 3-year probation. I mean, the potato guys, again, I don't order baked potatoes like I used to. Because after the Brian Harsin experiment, the potato boys really soured me on baked potatoes. They do. I like a loaded, like a shrimp baked potato. Yeah, I'll take that. But
shrimp baked potato, I don't even know what that is.
Oh, they've got those up here in parking at Jeremy's Barbecue Shack on 64, loaded with fresh Gulf shrimp and garlic and butter. But point is, Doug and Brenden, that's a ridiculous rule. All these rules were born out of the pandemic and the pity party and feeling sorry for everybody. This has got to stop. We got a 9th-year guy playing at Miami, Doug. I mean, this guy, I guess he's in his first year of his residency as a doctor in medical school.
Oh, and let's not forget, I'm sorry if I sound snarky because
You're allowed to on this show. I'm the producer.
We're snarky.
We're snarky.
Are we on is it the 5th or 6th portal transfer of one TJ Finley?
4th.
Golly,
This is ridiculous.
it all sticks this year, and he blows up and goes in the second round in the NFL.
Well, wait till they start thinking marriage is a portal.
Well, that's what I was about to say.
I mean, what lessons are we teaching the TJ Finleys and these athletes? What lessons?
Yeah,
are they
let
learning?
me throw a bone to Brenden, my man, so that I win him over, and when he's producing, he doesn't make me look like I'm 85 Joe Biden on air. But Brenden probably what Brenden is probably. I know he's not old enough to remember what is part of the doctrine of JABA, JAB, just Auburn being Auburn. Only Auburn could have Robert freaking McGinty, our field goal kicker, blow the 1984 Iron Bowl, and Auburn with Bo Jackson and Brent Fullwood in the backfield, lose that game to a really bad Alabama team. But McGinty transfers to Florida. Auburn goes down there, and McGinty kicks the winning field goal, Florida over Auburn. Only Auburn could do that.
I was there.
I remember all the heartbreaks against Auburn. Don't let this silky skin smooth you. I turned 50 this year, so
Well,
and my dad's a sports writer, so I had to endure a lot of those things.
Well, Doug, along that line, I was at that game. It was 17-3 in 1986, and Robert McGinty was from Jupiter Beach, Florida, and he wore those weird hardball glasses, I'll call them, the birth control glasses, and Ricky Nattiel in Florida led a furious comeback. But what happened, Reggie Ware, number 36 for Auburn, the fullback from Huntsville, Lee or Johnson, went over the top, got the first down, and fumbled the ball in the pile. That was you talk about heart. And then the throw in Mayo, remember, Doug, from Mayo, Florida, Kerwin Bell, after being out a month, comes in on one good leg.
Love Kerwin Bell.
I don't know how he could move himself.
Yeah. I'm with you, Doug. Hey,
I was
hell of a coach now these days, by the way.
Oh, how about that? What level is he
Carolina?
He's at Carolina, and he's
Western Carolina.
Western Carolina, and he's having much success.
Fantastic. I like him. He's a spirited guy.
No, he is.
I would be remiss if I didn't step out of just one big toe out of the SEC for a second. To me, it's such big news with Jim Harbaugh. I guess the ink is drying on the contract with the Chargers, but I'm going to be a little contrarian because, as you know, Rob, my day job, a big part of it is doing the best we can to use science and observation about human behavior and try to be better at. None of us will be 100%, but try to get into the 70% range at forecasting how humans, especially leaders, will behave and perform. And I know that Michigan is going to hand the reins to Sharon Moore, and I think the guy has earned it. And I know that Harbaugh was a huge fan of him, probably had a big say in that consideration. But it really, to me, as I watched the guy when he stepped in for Harbaugh a couple of games, and I want to say it was the Penn State game they won, he was not only super emotional post-game, but a little bit out of control of his own speech, as in profanity. And understand, I am not some Pollyanna guy that this is war. It's the sports version of war. So, expletives are going to fly, and I'm cool with that. But the Sharon Moore that I see, I think he's going to be very different from Harbaugh. Harbaugh is, to me, not emotional much at all. Maybe he is privately with his team. And I think the leadership qualities of Harbaugh, being that calming force when the winds are blowing and swirling around you and you're behind or even in a game and there's only 5 minutes left, and the players pick up on, players imitate and become the persona of their head coach. I just think Sharon Moore might have his struggles, and you only have to look just to their rival in a neighboring state to see that Ryan Day, just because he was under a great head coach who departed, does not mean that everything just continues the same because you keep the staff together. It didn't work so well with the Nalsminger offense following Al Borges, Rob. So I don't know. I absolutely wish Moore nothing but success. I don't have any hate for Michigan. probably have a little more sports hate for the Buckeyes because of their arrogance. But my prediction would be Sharon Moore will not enjoy sustain the level of success that Harbaugh has the last 4 or 5 years.
I mean, it'll be very difficult for him to do it. But, one thing about Michigan, they just broke the 1,000-win barrier this year. And
Wow.
it's more than anybody. And they've won 45 Big Ten titles since the conference was founded in 1896. And their most recent fundraising campaign was a $5 billion campaign for their endowment. But when you get the wrong coach in there, and we have Dave Tompkins, who's on here with us on, the roundtable, Savant Saturday. His father was very good friends with Bo Schembechler, and he knew Coach Schembechler well. He talks about that close-knit fraternity up there, how conservative they are. Gary Moeller, Lloyd Carr. Rich Rod, that ain't the right fit. I mean, you don't bring a heavy metal band to lead off at the Grand Ole Opry. Not that I don't like a good heavy metal band, but
Come on now.
it's just a good fit. Headbangers and stomping on baby chickens. I mean, it's just part of it. And Alice Cooper, with a snake around his neck.
I might like to see, frankly, Metallica at the Grand Ole Opry.
Oh, it'd be so good. Well, they're sort of gutted now. They're a little more like, mainstream. So they might fit in there now.
I'm down to about 60 seconds, guys. If there's a particular topic of interest you want to stump me with.
Well, Ray Mooring, one of our listeners, viewers down in Huntsville, Sigma with me at Auburn, just said, Reggie Ware from Butler, 6'1", 205 pounds as an 8th grader. And he said, I had to play against him every year. And I thought the limit on the running backs at that age was like 150 pounds. That's a big kid. Doug, look, your prediction on this basketball team, how good can they be? Bruce Pearl's team.
Last night you sort of I was anxious to see, is this team really and truly this juggernaut that is one or two steps ahead of everybody they're playing? And they were looking that way coming into last night. But they got humbled a little bit, especially first period. So now there are some unknowns, and Bruce has given voice to these unknowns. Are we looking as good as we are because of the type of competition we're playing, or having the tougher games at home in the Neville, where Auburn rarely loses? They've had some seasons they never lose in Neville Arena. So now I think I'm not going to forecast, a record or anything, but I mean, obviously it would be shocking if Auburn is not in the end at least a 4 seed. They have a chance to be a 3 seed if they really take off. And you can't rule out a 2 seed if they end up winning the regular season SEC. They're still atop the standings because Kentucky has lost. Tennessee has a loss. So I don't know. That's a tough one to call late January. I'll go with Auburn is in the last couple of games of the regular season. Auburn is in contention, probably with Tennessee, to win the regular season. And that would set Auburn up to, you go play the SEC tournament. That matters to an extent, but Auburn would very likely be a 3 seed in that scenario, 2 or 3 seed in that scenario.
Okay. Doug, I know you got to get to a meeting, but we'll be back on with you later in the week. Awesome stuff. And I agree with what you just said.
Y'all have a great one, guys.
You too. Have fun.
Thanks, Coach.
Hey,
how good is he?
Oh, Doug is phenomenal. He's one of the favorites. He's on with us a lot. And I love these comments coming in. Kelly Leak, Bad News Bears, much money available to pay Ryan Williams due to defections of players at Alabama. All right, so that's a good question before Coach Matt Dean joins us here. If they're these contracts, I don't know how they're written. They're all different. But if you have a contract and a player walks on you, you just stop paying him. You have extra money. If he had a $500,000 deal, so all of a sudden, you didn't give him all $500,000 of that. It could work both ways.
It's pretty rough. It's pretty rough to give the kids at Alabama. You don't think they got a little, something to come on, and now they're just jumping ship? I mean, there's no rules.
Yeah.
Until you get in trouble.
Yeah, I think they got more than, 4 pairs of tube socks and some fluorescent bulbs to come there.
The free Bama shirt.
Yeah, yeah, roll tide. I mean, come on.
Roll Tide.
I mean, look, I got a ton of Alabama friends. And
can we just discuss? I wanted to show you this to you. Can we just discuss Grimsley's, he could have been Michael Jackson in this photo. I just feel like before he became a Gator, I feel like that's almost Michael Jackson,
Yeah.
I mean, the hat. I mean, that's and you're going to tell me with that hat on, he's not a Saban guy? Come on now.
Oh my, yeah. Look, think about that. That's a 17, 18-year-old kid wearing the Saban hat. And he went. Allie Peak Wilbur was on the Buddy Martin show last night, and I was privileged to be on there with y'all. That's so an awesome show.
We're going to get her on here. We're going to get her on this show.
Yeah, Allie's been on with us a couple of times. Her dad played, her grandfather played for the Gators. Her dad played for the Gators. Her husband played for the Gators in 06 for the national champions. Her brother played in 08 for the national champions Gators. But she pointed out last night that Grimsley, she goes, he's a fellow alumnus, as am I, of Tampa Catholic. And, Allie Peak Wilbur's cool. She's got 2 sets of twin girls. There's a special place in heaven for her.
And she doesn't look like, and it's like, get off.
She looks like she's 25. I mean,
by the way, I'm a YouTube star. Get off,
Well,
and PTA, no problem.
She knows, boy, she knows her football. Look, I'm going to say this. I remarried, and my oldest one, Mallory, is Alabama grad, still a good person, love her. She knows football. And Rich from Atlanta, who was one of Feinbaum's best callers ever, I've gotten to know Rich. I love this guy. He's a big Bama guy, one of the nicest, kindest people. He's got 2 grandsons, Jessica's twin boys, Alex and Fitz. They're like 8. They're living in Shreveport. Watch out for these kids. They're going to be they are studs. But Jessica and Mallory were roommates at Alabama. They know college football. I'm telling you, women can see things that men cannot. When they watch a football game. Audrey studies body language. She watches the way people react when they come off the field. But
because she's real smart in general. And
she's good with ciphering and gazindas. 5 goes into 10, 10 goes into 20, and 20 goes into 40, and gazindas.
Gazindas.
Hey.
People are just stopping and watching us now. We better bring in Matt Dean before we get in trouble.
Yeah, bring in the coach, Matt Dean, who is from, and I might add, bit of trivia here for you, Brenden. Matt, this is our executive producer, Buddy Martin's son, Brenden, who's got about 20 years experience with big-time production in college football games and all. Matt is from the Quad Cities. And do you know where the Quad Cities are in Middle America? Now, we know about the Quad Cities in Northwest Alabama.
I know about the Twin Cities and,
Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Yeah.
But he is from, there's
Moline, I don't know the quads.
Rock Island. Yeah. The Quad Cities, Moline, Bettendorf, Rock Island, and Davenport.
Yes, my hometown, Davenport, Iowa. Correct.
Wow, yeah. Iowa.
Yeah. But his son's on the staff at Oregon with Dan Lanning. So he's got 32 years of experience coaching men's and women's basketball. And I'm going to tell you one thing, man. You want to talk some basketball? Dino Hoops. I love it. Matt, how many TVs you got going now?
I just want to this has got to be Brenden doing. I got a new streaming icon here. Everything looks better, Rob. You've upgraded already. No, for the longest time, we brought our TV in the porch for college football season. So the great thing now with YouTube is you could have like multiple quad boxes going simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
I love it.
I do too, but it took a while to get used to it first. Like what I'll do is I'll have one TV, the main game I want to watch. I'll have a quad box over there, and I'll make sure the volume's on the TV. I want something going on that's interesting. On the other side, I'll flip over there. But no, guys, I was watching. I don't know if you talked about a great game last night, Rob. Auburn, though they lost, you can tell, man, they have a great team. Losing on the road in basketball to really good opponents does never hurts you. It makes you stronger.
Yeah.
And really good game and tough outcome for the Tigers.
Well, Doug Dean was on right before you, the AU dose, and John Hartwell, by the way, is at those AD meetings, Sunbelt Conference over in Atlanta, so he's not going to be with us today. But we were talking about that. It was a good opportunity for Auburn to get a quadrant 1 win. But my takeaway was when things weren't going Auburn's way, they were down 44-30 at the half. They didn't have a hissy fit and fall apart. So as a coach, kind of break it down for you. And you pick the games, but what the way you finish the game has everything to do, in my opinion, with how you practice the next day, the rest of the week, and the next game, doesn't it? I think it does.
No, it does. And you mentioned something it's important. They're down 14 at half. Bruce Pearl does a really nice job of motivating his team. They're prepared to play. They play a difficult style of basketball. But really, the game of basketball, it comes down to making shots. And I just thought, down the stretch, Auburn. First of all, I love Johnny Browne. Last night, he had a terrific game. I don't get a chance to watch Auburn all the time, to be honest with you. I'm still too inclined to look at the Big Ten Network and watch my Hawkeyes lose. But last night, I was going back and forth. And I just think Auburn's got all the pieces. They're going to be a really tough out come March. And they're going to be a top 2, top 3 SEC team. I'm guessing. The other night when Kentucky goes to South Carolina and loses by 17, Kentucky's a really good basketball team. It just shows you the depth of the SEC and how hard it is to win on the road in the SEC. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I happened to Arkansas and the Muskrat. Last night, I missed just devastated them. And that game was in Oxford, like a 30-point spread maybe. But the SEC is as good as any basketball conference in the country. That's my early observation. I know we've been transitioning finally to basketball, and we're going to still talk football because obviously Harbaugh left yesterday. But and now you open up that transfer window, right? Oh, I like the graphic up there, Rhodes College. Yeah.
Oh, this is fun. Yeah.
Now listen, I want to tell you something about that graphic. So when I was the athletic director, during COVID, my president, and we ticked off some alumni, she went through a branding strategy, Brenden, and we changed our forever mascot, right?
From what to what?
Well, there's still links, but we had like a much more aggressive looking links. This looks like something out of Tom and Jerry. This cat does, right?
Yeah. Is there a better one? Did I get the wrong one? Is it the old one?
No, that's the current one. But a lot of our alumni don't like our change. I caught a lot of grief, but people don't know, like at least in my level of athletics, there was a committee of 6 people, and the president said, we're doing this. I had no say in the matter, right? But all the alumni would call me and give me grief about that links. But it is our accurate
I like it. I think it's tight. I like it. It'd make a good tattoo, It would. Right on the shoulder. It'd be tight. It'd be fierce. It's fierce. I feel like it's fierce. I will mention that
to our alumni that call me and complain next time, Brenden. I will mention that.
Well, when I go to the Memphis Zoo, which, by the way, Brenden, is located across the North Parkway from Rhodes College, and you talk about it's the most beautiful inner city campus in the United States. That's my dad's quote, and I agree with him. I mean, it's Ann Arbor like. Okay.
Really?
And it's and they when you go over there to cat country, Matt, they have the ocelots and they have the lynx cats.
So you go.
Y'all need to adopt that one and put a big Rhodes College banner out there. Okay. I'm just saying that. But looking at basketball, and by the way, Caden Proctor is going to be a Hawkeye now.
How about that?
Yeah. I mean, what do you think about that rule? And Doug Dean, we don't like it. Brenden doesn't like it. I don't like it, about when a coach leaves, the players have 30 days to go anywhere. I mean, you are literally cannibalizing the roster. It's like they're put on probation. It's not the death penalty, but it ain't dying ain't much of a living.
No.
Well, we go back to, a lot of times Lane Kiffin gives us great fodder. And, I don't know if you remember this quote he said earlier. He goes, the problem with the portal, a lot of it's timing. And how it's almost like we're getting ready to play championship level games and free agency is occurring in the same time frame. So it's like coach leaves. I think maybe there needs to be a window when a coach can leave and not leave, unless they're fired. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like if you leave on your own, why don't the coaches have a window too? If you don't, but see, this one was tied to the NFL and it was tied to after the Final Four run. It hurts. It affects so many people. Look at what's going on with Washington and Alabama now. You know, that's that craziness. You know, and my son Brenden is director of player personnel, and so he was sending a screenshot rolling to his mother on the amount of phone calls he had been on, like in about an hour period. It was like more than I've had in a year. You know what I'm saying? Because they're lining up visits even this weekend. I think Jabbar Muhammad, who is the Washington corner, is going up to Eugene this weekend. He's from Texas. But it's like we just opened up another window with Michigan, you know? I don't like it at all, guys. And we got the greatest thing in mankind right now in college football, but we're messing with it, figure it out, and I don't like that rule.
Well, I like this idea of making the coaches wait out. And it just sucks, you know, that Harbaugh gets to sort of, you know, just ditch out, right? And has no repercussions on him whatsoever. And then Michigan's got to take it on the nose. Yes. You know, and I just, you know, there's, especially if you have any sort of drama, there should be like a drama, like, you know, clause that says if you got drama, you can't, you know, you can't, like the NFL needs to agree somehow. There needs to be some sort of simpatico here that they can't just ditch out and go, you know, go coach the NFL, because you see it all too often. And I think it's a great point to bring up because we talk about these players all the time. Yeah. What about the coaches, you know? And it's not fair to them. To the universities, and I think, you know, and it has such a ripple effect financially. It can hurt the program. It's really not fair. And to your other point, when we're talking about just the transfer portal in general, yeah, okay, the transfer portal is one thing, but now when you're combining this with NIL, right, it's just like giving a crack addict, like, you know, a whole bunch of crack. You know, it's like. It is like it's just let's just take this gasoline and we're just gonna pour it on this giant bonfire that's already happening. I mean, I think if you're gonna go to like fix any of this stuff, let's go back to the year wait, right? And that's where it seems like, and I could be wrong here, but it seems like that's where the NCAA can make a difference, right?
Yeah. Well, there's a leadership vacuum right now. There's none with the NCAA, and the worst thing is they keep flirting with the federal government. They are incapable of fixing this. They're not, we don't, but as a coach, Matt, I mean, if you're Michigan, how many people, you're right, livelihoods are affected. And then Oregon, your son, director of player personnel and scouting at Oregon. I can tell you right now, I'll make a prediction. Your son's going to start getting a lot of strong ass offers from SEC schools. And I'll tell you why. Brenden, Matt pointed this out. They have a direct flight, a nonstop flight now from Eugene to DFW airport because they go into tech. Because I mean, you think about 2010, Auburn played Oregon for the national championship. West Byram, St. Thomas Aquinas High School in Fort Lauderdale kicked the winning field goal to win it. The snap, the kick, it's good. Josh Harris, a walk-on from Carrollton, Georgia, was the deep snapper for that one. And I mean, I'm telling you, their quarterback in that game was a guy named Darren Thomas for Oregon from Houston. The running back is their all-time leading rusher, DJ James, out of Texarkana, Texas. Okay. And by the way, our friend Knox Greer's over in Texarkana for the rest of the week. And I said, if you can find me the legend of Boggy Creek, the Falcon Monster, that's their Bigfoot, estimated to be 6'9", 380 pounds. I want a hoodie. So if he gets one, I'm wearing it on the show. But your son is accumulating so much incredible data and information. He's going to be a valuable tool for some lucky SEC school. I'm telling you, Brenden, I go over to Rhodes College. You see Matt, all the coaches, Jeff Cleanthes, their baseball coach, Duncan, the football coach, they all gravitate toward him. He's a big guy, you know, but he understands stuff that I can't think of. But Matt, we need people like you, Rick Neuheisel, Urban Meyer. You know, Brenden talks to Urban Meyer a lot. We brought some of his podcast interview with Buddy Martin on the show earlier this week on Tuesday about the portal and all the craziness going on. You're making sense, but are people out there in Indianapolis listening to the fans? You think? I'm wound up about it.
You are pretty tight. And by the way, Brenden, if you're ever in Memphis, we can convene at my the Lynx Lair is where we do our lunches in the building. That
beautiful,
gorgeous. I'm coming to Memphis. I'm going to do a whole video series about coming to Memphis. I'm going to go duck hunting. I'm going to go around. I'm
walking in Memphis.
It's going to be a whole walk. Brenden in Memphis. We got a prayer in Memphis.
Great song. Ironically, Brenden, when I took the job at Rhodes in '91, Mark Cohn had just released that song.
I love that song.
I did. I got off the plane and it kind of just, it was kind of like a sign that maybe I need to move my family down here. But the leadership in the NCAA, they don't know what to do. We all know, guys, at some point, this whole football narrative is going to go under maybe a different umbrella with maybe a commissioner. We break up the 4 pods of 16 for power, whatever you want to call it. I think Chip Kelly has so many good ideas. First of all, with my son being in Oregon, when they broke up when Oregon's going to the Big Ten, it made no sense. It made sense for football, but it doesn't make sense for all the other student athletes and a lot of the sports they do. So at some point, we're going to have to figure out, how we're going to move this going forward. And I'm just talking about college football.
Well, I just think power in numbers, right? Like, just everyone's just got to get together and say, hey, all 6 of you at the NCAA, you're making some bad decisions. I mean, literally, I think we talked about this yesterday. It's that somebody's just got to break ranks. You got to get some heavy hitters, right? And then you got to get some, you got to go get some, current coaches, and everyone's just got to get together and just give them the proverbial, what? And, and I think then what are they going to do about it?
Yeah.
Well, you're right. And I think one of the teams that's really pissed off right now about the whole process, is Florida State with what went down in the selection process. Whether you thought they should have been in the top 4 or whatever, they felt wronged, and direct reflection, and I think if we'd have had 12 this year, it would have proved out pretty similar, but you don't know. I mean, there's a lot of teams from 5 through 8. First of all, Georgia probably would have won the whole thing.
No question.
Georgia wins the whole thing, right? So that's going to change the narrative. And then honestly, Alabama's up 7 with Michigan. I still contend that was a game that Alabama really outplayed Michigan to the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter in the overtime. But honestly, I mean, Georgia getting left out probably told me a couple things. The numbers of 12, you're going to have the first 4 have buys next year.
Right.
You got to be honestly in the top 4 to have a chance, in my opinion. Because if you don't have a bye, and you're talking about college athletes in football, hard, physical, violent sport, going back to back to win this thing, it's going to be difficult for 5 through 12. Would you guys both agree with that?
100%.
I mean, I think it's going to be really difficult if the first 4 getting buys.
Well, we'll still fighting about 13, right? So it's just going to be.
It's going to happen. You're right.
It's going to happen, right? Someone's going to get screwed.
They always do.
Yeah.
Well, it is, and you're going to have a 12-team playoff. 13 and 14 are going to pitch a fit. But again, I've gone back and done this research, and I love doing this. But if you go back, college football started November 6th, 1869. Rutgers 6, Princeton 4 in 11 innings. There were 25 players on each side.
2023, Rob. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And so you go back and you look, they started awarding the national championships in the 1890s, a lot of them. Penn, Yale, Harvard, they were getting them all. And then you started to have different systems. So let's say in the last 110 years, or since the early 1900s, on average, 4 teams a year will lay claim to a national championship. Michigan, prior to splitting it with Nebraska in 1997, they had not won a national championship, even split one, since 1948. I think Fritz Chrysler was the coach back then. And then they won it outright, and I picked them to beat Washington straight up. I said they'll win 34-28. Wasn't even close. Michigan's damn good football team, and I love Harbaugh. He's weird, tucks in his sweatshirts and wears white socks. And he's the Hank Hill of college football coaches, okay? And but I'm looking at, every year in the 1964, Arkansas celebrates the national championship with Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones and Jim Lindsey. I think a lot of guys like that. So does Alabama. They went down and lost 21-17 to Texas in the Orange Bowl. And Notre Dame celebrates the 64 national championship team. Okay? So it's weird. But don't y'all think that controversy about 3 or 4 teams a year over time can lay claim? That's what fuels the interest in college football all year long. There's nothing else like it because there's really no finality to it. Yes? No?
No, yeah.
In between.
No, you're right. I mean, honestly, from a coaching perspective, I've done this my whole career. It is hard to win, guys. It's hard to win anything. And, football, I coach a little middle school football, but like when you're in the office with a football staff and they lose a game, that whole week, man, it's just a different mood around the office building because that's almost the equivalent of losing 3 basketball games in a row if you look at the scheduling model.
Absolutely.
It's hard. And, to look at what Saban has accomplished at Alabama, for what you just described, Rob, put that in perspective. It's amazing. And that's why I think it was interesting. And I'm not giving any inside knowledge, but, DeBoer takes that job. Washington had a phenomenal year. He did two great years there. You look at his track record. He was a very successful NAIA coach, an assistant coach. He had coached Penix at Indiana when he was the offensive coordinator. Special year, but they got 3 wide receivers that'll play in the league someday. But man, he's going into some huge cavernous shoes right now. And I wish him the best.
God.
But I want to be the guy that replaces DeBoer, not the guy that replaces Saban. So I still think there's a great chance in 5 years you may see Dan Lanning at Alabama. I really believe that.
Yeah. Dan
you never
Lanning,
want to be that. You never want to be that next guy up. What were we calling him yesterday, Rob? You want
to be the guy that replaces the guy that replaces the guy.
Well, yeah, it's like in a relationship. You don't want
to
be
the rebound guy.
You don't want to be the rebound coach.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Dan Lanning is from North Kansas City, Missouri. So that's where he's from. So he is a Midwesterner right there. Go right through there when we go pheasant hunting up 29 to Sioux Falls, take a left on I-90 and head west to Chamberlain out there to the L7 Ranch, about an hour east of Pierre. First time I ever saw tumbleweed, by the way, on Interstate 90 cutting across South Dakota, 50-mile-an-hour winds. I mean, it's 18-wheelers just blown off the road, just boom, watch out. Don't text and drive. You know what? This is a great conversation. You're talking about Chip Kelly. I don't know him, but the guys, he went 4 straight BCS bowls at Oregon. And you think about Oregon didn't just suddenly get to be good. I mean, Rich Brooks was there 76 through 94. His last team went to the Rose Bowl. He then goes to Kentucky after 18 years. Mike Belotti's there for 14 years. Okay. Chip Kelly, Halford, it just didn't work out. Yeah. And then Willie Taggart went out there briefly, Mario Cristobal. They got something pretty cool. You've been out there.
Well, and don't they have the most successful collective, I thought, or at least the most amount of money as far as like in this new age? I heard as far as corporate sponsorship.
That's what I've heard. I don't know the specifics, but I think it's got to be top 3, top 5. Maybe it's the best.
And I mean that in the corporate actual, the way it's supposed to be money, like, not like, Daddy Warbucks money. Yeah.
Well, I will tell you this. It's not just football athletes that are getting that money. They have, if you go on that campus, one of the things that strikes me, their most impressive facility is not football, it's track and field.
Oh yeah, I've been there. It's awesome. Yeah,
it's phenomenal.
I've been there. It's a beautiful facility.
It is. So
that's the track. I mean, that's the track.
Well, that's Phil Knight too, obviously. Because Phil Knight's a former student athlete there. He was a runner. You think of the Olympics, think of Prefontaine.
Prefontaine, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, because Florida's, talking about building a new track because, all these track athletes come out of Florida. We cover track and field down here because it's a thing. Because you're going to see, at least 4 or 5 of those people. I mean, Florida won national championship in track last year. So it's a really fun thing to go watch. And at Oregon, because I've been up there. I'm a Colorado guy, by the way, Matt.
Yeah.
So I'm not too far away from your neck of the woods. So I think it's a neat place.
Well, hasn't Mike Holloway, the track and field coach at Florida, won 13 national championships?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they just dominate.
Yeah, they do. And you look at the track and field facility at Oregon. It's a cathedral. It's what it is. It's global. All right. And you talk about track and field. We see it in America, especially during the Olympics. But I've noticed when I've traveled outside this country, especially traveling throughout Europe, on a Saturday during the summer, like we have college football on nonstop in the fall in America. It's track and field meets. And everywhere you look, there's track and these track and field athletes in America are well known. But they're like rock stars around the world. It's ginormous. I mean, how big a deal was Yao Ming? It's 7 feet 8 and 400 pounds. He was ginormous in China. I tell you, I see us going.
I'm ginormous in China at 6'4". Okay.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, because it's not. They're not a lot of tall people. I mean, like 7'8" anywhere, but no. He didn't really last that long in the NBA, I don't think. But let's
for a minute.
Yeah, he was around for a while. But looking at college sports right now, I love this discussion. I think where we're going, Mike DeBoer, he's 104-12, but he went to Washington, and that was a mess. And in 2 years, he led them to a 25-3 record. But now, and now Michigan, they got to go find a coach that ain't going to be Harbaugh good. They've got money. Money alone doesn't solve the problems, Matt.
No, because they've always had money, right? They're Michigan.
Yeah,
they have
always.
a huge endowment. They have a huge branding. I think with Michigan, what we're kind of hearing initially, not that my sources extend in Auburn, but I think Sharon Moore, the offensive coordinator that replaced Harbaugh, the games he was suspended, that makes sense. You stay within the family. It should help maybe with some portal escapes. Obviously, that would be a quick transition. I would be shocked if they went outside, to be honest with you.
Matt, from your perspective, I think this is interesting to talk to people in your perspective, in your position in schools. Anymore now, it's you got to go portal shopping. You got to, and you can, in my opinion, and please tell me if I'm wrong, but in my opinion, you can rebuild a little faster now because of that. Because you can go, if you got money, you can go say, okay, great, we've got these recruits, great, because recruiting is more popular down here than I think the actual football season. But then, you've got a lot more of examples of how these athletes are going to perform, a la Graham Mertz, right? Who came from Washington and came, then he comes down, he kind of rebuilds his career, down here in Florida. And now he's coming back next year. But do you think that's, that sort of bodes well for these guys who are coming in to fill these big shoes, or is it just still sort of the same landscape?
No, Brenden, I think you're 100% correct, and you tied on something that I believe is happening right now. So I'll give you an example because I know the Oregon template because my son works there. They're looking every year. It's almost like NFL free agency. You're going to use the portal to supplement maybe 8 to 10, sometimes 6 to 8 positions of need, correct? But you have to have an incredible commitment towards high school recruiting. So you're still going to get your 20 to 25 high school kids every year and try to be in the top 10 of the country in that. But then, hell, they have portal rankings now. Right.
That's what I'm saying.
I know.
Power
I think
rankings.
Lane Kiffin has been great at that recently in the SEC. But also, here's another thing. I think because of this change and it's nonstop. I think some veteran coaches are just tired of it, and you'll see some coaches that are my age. I'm in my 56, 57 range. Eventually, are going to get out earlier because they don't like managing that, because you got to manage both. And if you can't manage both, you're going to suffer. And if you can manage both, you're going to get back in the game quicker if you take over a 5-league program.
So okay, so let's go further down this rabbit hole. So, the Sabans, the Urban Meyers, the Steve Spurriers, their sort of way of managing, however we want to discuss if players were paid back in the day or not, this is regardless. But
yes.
So the old back highway, bootlegger runs with the bag money. But, this is sort of a new age or for coaches. I talked to, luckily enough, we do a podcast with Urban Meyer usually every week with my dad. And he, one of the reasons he doesn't want to come back and coach anymore is because he's like, I don't know if I could be as effective in a lot of ways with what we're going, forward. So it's like, does it affect? My question is, do you think it affects the style of coaching when you got a kid that can be like, screw you, man, I'm out, I'm transferring out. You know what I mean? You can't be this like badass that's going to roll in and be like, okay, give me your colors and your jerseys and you're going to do mat drills, like what we saw on Netflix with Swamp Kings. I mean, do you think it's different now?
Yes, and it has to be, because you're taking, some of these powerful men, you're taking control out of their hands. It drives them nuts. It's like being a narcissistic leader and told, you're going to do it this way. You're like, no, I'm doing it my way. Coach, I'm going to play for someone else. And think about this. If I told you, and you got a pretty good roster, I told you every year you can go out and get 8 to 10, 4 or 5 stars that have a year or two experience. Are you going to do it? I would.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. You do that for back-to-back years, and all of a sudden you have transformed your football team.
Especially in the skill position, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, all the way around. But I mean, a guy's going to fly. He's been, lighting it up. Or again, to use Graham Mertz as an example, he was, not having success where he was. And then he comes down and obviously had a hell of a year last year, despite Florida's debacle. But he was one of the shining stars. So why not go get those guys, right? I mean, and why it does take some of that focus off, the recruiting as much, and then don't you go more into player development now? Like, because they're bringing in a kid, DJ Lagway, this next year, who's Mr. High school football in Texas, one of the best, so now, but see, then you've got to skirt that line, right? It's like, well, you're going to have to play him or you worry about him going out. Like, your son's in player, in this sort of world. Like, how do you really develop this? Do you because you can't franchise tag a guy, right? So it's like, you got to play this kind of funny game.
What's interesting about that, Brenden and Rob, I think now you're seeing more of an emphasis on coordinators and position coaches as opposed to like the Bear Bryants and Sabans. I'll tell you why. I look at a guy like Junior Adams. You may have never heard him before. I just mentioned him. He's the wide receiver coach at Oregon. When he was at Eastern Washington, he coached Cooper Kupp. Okay. He was briefly at Washington. He coached Rome Odunze, who'll be a top 10 pick in this year's draft. So now he comes to Oregon and, Tez Johnson, Bo Nix's half-brother, transfers up. He has a spectacular year. Trayshawn Holden, who was an Alabama recruit that didn't even, I think, hardly get the field, comes up and gets numbers. So now, as a head coach, I'm selling Rob Browne, my offensive coordinator, Brenden Martin, my defensive coordinator.
Right.
What you said, I got tape on you now. I can develop you because I saw you get some reps in the SEC. I can take you to the next level of the league. And it's easier to say that to a college kid who's done it in some form or fashion than a high school kid. We don't even know what the heck that kid's going to pan out to be, right? So that's the way I look at it.
It happens every day in the business world. You take a successful business that's 50 years old and you pay a 5X or a 10X multiple on the forward earnings, okay? Buying a started dog. I mean, one that's got a year's worth of training. If you buy a hunting dog, you buy a started dog, or do you want to buy a puppy? You get them at 7 weeks old, the 49th day. you better hope they're good. But if you buy one that's a year old, a year and a half old, that's got $10,000-$15,000 of training fees involved, that's what you're going to pay for, but you're getting a proven started dog.
Are you going to go hire a CEO of your company that just graduated grad school and business school? And you're Fortune 500. Hell no.
Yeah. And then this is what's going on now. And that the bottom line is, though, we need to value older employees. That what's going on in the business world in America. You go to Dillard's department store anywhere, it's all the older people that came back to work after the pandemic draconian lockdowns. A lot of the younger people, we've temporarily lost a bunch of workers that once you cut off the money, they'll get back to work. No more. You got to stop it. That like we are letting every whiny little excuse making student athlete, and some of them are legitimate, but a lot of them are just pure made up. We're giving in to them. I'm talking about the NCAA. That's got to stop. If you don't have accountability, you can't get any results. Because if there are no consequences for your actions, especially your bad actions, then you'll continue to do them. Nothing will motivate you more as a kid than when your parents take away the keys to your car, your truck, cut off your allowance. That's how you get people's attention. As far as coaching and like you say, these powerful men, these egos, look, men are men, women are women. We're different, okay? We balance each other out. But we need those alpha males out there because we're trying to emasculate the male culture in this country. And then we give in to people that throw a temper tantrum and give in to them. That makes it worse. And that's what's going on. The portal is just a manifestation of decades of participation trophies and caving in and people trying to be best friends with their kids. It's failing. It's going to blow up. And I'm telling you, the fans will take back control of college athletics. You can tell me all you want, oh, that's terrible to say. You're not telling the 18-year-old he can't make money or she can't with their NIL deal. I'm just saying the way they pay them, structure the contracts to where they get the money when they're 25, 30, and 35, age-banded trust and incentive-based trust. That's how you do it in the real world. Nobody in their right mind would give an 18-year-old $25 million if they had $500 million. They know what would happen to them. They'd be down at the beach and buying a new boat and go get them a dang Stingray or whatever. And the last thing they're going to be thinking about is playing football.
And Matt, Rob, I want to ask you this because this is sort of a theory I have because, you touched on it before with Lane Kiffin, right? One of the reasons I like Lane Kiffin or have liked Lane Kiffin, I've sort of said, why he's sort of in his prime now is that he knows how to talk to these new athletes, right? He knows how to connect with them. I worked with kids at summer camps for years and years, and I always had the teens, whatever, and did outdoor instruction. And people said, man, you're so great with these kids. What's your secret? What my secret is that I'm cooler than you, right? I'm cooler than you, and you want my cool. Right. And that's really what it's like. It's like you've got swagger. So, Mike McDaniel, right, for Miami, right? I think he's got that Lane Kiffin sort of vibe, right? Knows how to like connect with these players and be, something else. Plus, he's crazy smart. But I think, do you all agree that this is the type of coach that we're going to see have success in this new bandangle thing we call college football?
Matt, answer that one.
I 100% Brenden. And Kiffin to me talked about he's got the appeal, and he's a heck of a fine offensive football coach. So if I'm trying to get a quarterback to come play with me in the portal right now, there's a great chance I want to play for Lane Kiffin. You look at what Jackson Dart did last year, the fact that he's coming back. I know they lost their running back, I believe, to Ohio State, but I think there were some other dynamic issues there outside of just, it was a chemistry situation because you can see some cuts to tape where he was getting on offensive linemen for blocks. I don't like that, whatever. But I think Kiffin's a great example. I think Dan Lanning has it. I think the Hugh Freeze has some of that. Now, I don't know what went down, Rob, with some of the that left. Like, I didn't like the fact that Cadillac's gone. I don't know what's going on in inner workings there, but I think
you don't want to know.
I don't, but I think Hugh's got offensive acumen. I think he understands the recruiting model, the Southeastern Conference. He succeeded at a high level everywhere he's been. So he has a chance. And that's why I truly believe this. I'll give you an example in basketball to a guy that I think was the best dressed, Jay Wright. 2 championships at Villanova. At the top of his game. And you know what he said? I'm tired of this crap. I'm getting out of this crap. And Jay Wright was only 60, guys, and he looks like a Greek god. He could sell anyone in a living room to come play for him. And he said, I'm tired of the mess. And Brenden, you got to have that these days, I think, to work the whole entirety of what's going on. Then you got to have staffers. And what I mean by that, you have to have people that are committed in your recruiting, your personnel, and your scouting departments. It's nonstop. I'll tell you this story. And, I know no one has sympathy for these kids, but, we got to see our son December 21st through the 24th, put him on a flight back to Oregon the 24th, because he's got to get back there for Christmas preparation. Those are the only 3 days he has off until like the middle of February. It's crazy. And that's a top 5, top 10 program. That's the mentality you have to have. And I'll be honest with you, he worked for Jimbo Fisher for 4 years at A&M. And that's he knows why Jimbo's not there. Jimbo didn't work hard enough. He didn't want to work hard enough.
Oh.
And that you got to have the energy level, and your staff has to have that energy level, and the staffers do. The whole building has got to have energy. If you don't, you're going to fail.
Yeah. And like that's the old story, even back, when the Gators won their national championship, and Urban Meyer goes into the locker room before he's celebrating with the team. He's taking a text message to try to find a hot recruit, right? That mentality, as we're trying to actually put together a talk right now with Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer, who are going to do one at Spurrier's restaurant in Gainesville up here.
Wow.
And the conversation is going to be how much they hate to lose. That's the whole topic of the conversation, because that is that mentality. They just can't stand it. People who said Urban Meyer didn't have health issues and blah, blah, blah. Look, you don't understand. This guy cannot even talk about his losses still to this day, because he's like, I get fired up. I'm really getting fired. Like he's like, I'm upset. That's this mentality, right? But that was for a head coach. You understand that. But now that mentality, in a sense of like this 24/7 news cycle, this it's like, how do you keep up anymore with collectives, with recruiting? Now you've got power rankings and rankings for portal players. The NCAA pretends to police whatever the hell they want to police, but they really don't have any sort of real control anyways, because they couldn't police what they had before. And now how are they going to go do what they're doing now? And now every school's got a collective and another collective and a secret collective and, all this other crap. It is not made anything easier. In fact, it's made everything harder. And for people like your son, it's like, I don't know. I don't envy that job in any way, shape, or form, because you've got not one phone, 2 phones, maybe 3 sometimes lucked on you, because you just can't miss it.
And burner phones and track phones for the dead period. Oh, dead period, my ass. There's no such thing.
There's no such thing.
I've said this about Lane Kiffin all along too. I've said I love it. I think I don't buy that. Saban does not hate him. He loves Saban, and Saban loves him because he ushered him in 14, 15, and 16 to college football as it is now. They won the SEC 3 years in a row with 3 different quarterbacks. Okay, went to the playoff 3 straight years. But Lane Kiffin isn't some soft candy ass coach. You saw back in the fall, September 16th, when that story came out about a player suing with his attorney in Jackson, Mississippi, $42 million suit against Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin for violating his mental health rights or whatever. Look, mental health is a serious issue, but he called that guy out on the carpet and said, look, dude, I have tried to call you for months, cell phone, text messages, emails. You don't respond. He goes, what? world do you live in, man? I am your boss. He goes, I'm done with you. You're off the team. Get out of here. Way to go, Lane Kiffin. So he's cool and he's got the swagger, but he's tough on those kids. And he is Ole Miss right now. They are, as Yancey Porter of Rebel Yell Hotline says on this show, and has for the last month, they are smelling blood for next year. They do really well in the portal. They're the portal kings, Kiffin and Ole Miss. But you know what else? They signed 4 of the top 5 high school players in the state of Mississippi this year, and 3 of them are defensive linemen. Don't think Lane Kiffin doesn't understand. You know who his father is, Monty Kiffin. Pretty damn good defensive coach, and he still helps him evaluate play. Look, you got to be tough, but you don't want to be, pencil whipping everybody for every violation. Matt, what you just said, nobody else is giving out this kind of information. You know why Jimbo isn't there? He didn't want to work. But he got paid so damn much money, he wasn't hungry anymore. They
got to stop doing that. That's because now it's like, well, what the hell? Fire me.
He doesn't care. He's going to get he got $19 million within 60 days, has to be put in his checking account. And over the next 8 years, he'll get $7.2 million each year. He doesn't have to do another thing the rest of his life except get up in the morning whenever he wants to. Matt?
So I got an interesting story for you guys. So we're in Baton Rouge at the team hotel for A&M. This is before the LSU A&M game several years ago when everyone thought that Jimbo was going to LSU. I don't know if you guys remember this. Everyone thought he was.
I remember. Yeah.
Because Scott Woodward, the AD at LSU, used to be the AD at A&M. He's the one that brought Jimbo to A&M, and then Scott went to LSU as the AD. Well, Bjork, who just got the Ohio State job, which is unfathomable to me. But anyway, Bjork extends him for an extra $30 million. Yeah. So then fast forward to when you let Jimbo go, Bjork's the one that extended him, and he should have let him go to LSU in the first place or called his bluff. Yeah. And then now Bjork knows I got to get out of A&M because I just hired Elko, who may work, may not work, and takes the Ohio State job. And I'm like, I'm sitting here at Rhodes College in the Lynx Lair eating a cheeseburger. And I'm like, these guys are a bunch of clowns. I don't know what is going on, but everyone seems to get rewarded for mistakes. You could have said, hey, Jimbo, you got a great contract. You honor that or you go. It's simple.
It's got to be like a non-compete or something, right, but to make a lot of sense to me. We had that discussion yesterday with, because these NCAA investigation of Florida, and this is just speculation. I think Billy Neighbors not going to get fired by any means. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we'd had the discussion of, wow, if say he did, is there a clause where he just, does he lose? Like does he doesn't get his money? If you get fired, like in a sense, like because of investigation, I was like, I don't know. I don't even know if that's in his contract, right?
Question.
That's a great question. That the reality is, I remember watching Ross Bajork. I'm going to mispronounce his name on purpose because he should not have this job. Ross Bajork. Watching him keep that poker face, a straight face, without laughing his ass off at that press conference when they got rid of Jimbo. I mean, you're the one who extended him, and absolutely look, Jay Jacobs and Auburn back December 3rd of 2017, the day after Auburn lost the rematch with Georgia, extended Arthur Gustavus Malzahn III, Gus Malzahn, 7 years, $49 million with a $32 million buyout. One of my buddies at Auburn said they need to call his bluff and say, you want to go to Arkansas? Don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Go. Okay? We're tired of this crap. But they didn't. And Gus wasn't even there. He was up in Memphis recruiting with a couple of other coaches, a kid that ended up signing with Tennessee. You got to start calling the bluff on these people. Okay? And you just got to do it. I mean, you remember the scene in the movie The Outlaw Josie Wales when those 3 Yankee soldiers saw Josie Wales coming out of that grocery store out west in New Mexico somewhere, and he had a grocery bag in each of his hands, and they said, that's him. And they were pointing at him, and he goes, well, You're going to pull them pistols. You're just going to sit there and whistle Dixie. And, you got to do something. You got to call bluffs on these coaches. But Ross Bjork is at Ohio State. You talk about the federal government is wasteful in their spending. Why don't we start looking up the skirts of these universities around the country to see how much of our money they're flushing down the toilet on these buyouts and all this other crap? As Ken Capps said, Football Writers Association of America, who's on our Friday show every week, one of the great sports writers in America, he said they paid $25 million to make Kevin Sumlin disappear, $75 million to make Jimbo disappear. That's $100 million. I'm pretty good with math. I'm a Texas grad. He goes, do you know how many kids that could send to Texas A&M on academic scholarships? For the love of God, we got to stop. Ross Bjork should be out of a job. He ought to be working at the shoe store or at the pet store, selling odor readers at the bowling alley. It's ridiculous. It's a joke.
Well, nobody above him held him accountable for that when they made the decision.
That's the thing.
And that's where they have so much money. I don't work in a place that can take a $30 million hit, whatever the number is, guys. I might be wrong, maybe 20, whatever. But there was an extension right there that you could have stopped it. In fact, you end up hiring Mike Elko, who was in your building at that time as a defensive coordinator that had helped you get to the Orange Bowl the year before. So one of the things when I was an AD, I had a short list for all my hires, right?
Yeah.
So if Elko was on my short list and I had him in the psych, go Jimbo, go. I got a guy better than you right now that the players like. I knew they liked him.
Yeah.
All those guys liked Mike Elko in that building. I mean, defensively. So it's just, I don't know, man. I just get frustrated. I know too much. Like even here, I've been here 33 years. I know where the bodies are buried.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason I'm still here. I have institutional knowledge. You know what I'm saying? So I hang around.
Yes, I know.
Hang around.
Hey, yeah. No, here's I love what Rob Anderson, whoever's idea it was to unleash Matt storytelling deserves a gold medal.
Well,
I love it. But
it's
look,
not
Matt,
hard. It's just, it's got to feed me a little bit,
Wait, no, look, we're going to be in Memphis. Audrey and I are going to be in Memphis here in a few hours. I mean, we may come by there and see you if you're going to be around. I got to tell you something. We're gonna. I don't know how much longer we're going to go today, Brenden. We're going to start varying some of the links of the shows and mix some things up.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, but let me say this. I just got a great text from Justin Ross, one of our sponsors. You want to do one of your shows at the Oxford store during our grand opening weekend, Friday, March 1st or March 2nd, being the Vitamin Shop, his new store down in Oxford. Justin, absolutely. That will be awesome. I love this guy, Justin. Justin Ross played college football at Rhodes College. Do you remember Justin?
Yeah, no, Matt? JR. Heck yeah.
Yeah, he's one of our sponsors of the Vitamin Shop.
Well, listen,
he just sent that text to me.
I'm not going to name drop on you here, but the head basketball coach at Rhodes, who worked for Tubby Smith, is good friends with Chris Beard. So if you want to plan something, maybe we can get Beard on there and we get my guy Zoe Goodson down there. We can do a little basketball talk if you want to.
Hey, listen, tell you what, with me
not
only as your producer, I can do anything. You just need to bring a laptop and you bring a microphone and we can go anywhere you want. The world is your oyster, my friend.
Yes, absolutely, Matt. Yes. Let me tell you something. Matt was one of the just the Ward Cleavers of coaches. That's it. Hugh Beaumont is no, you really are absolutely Chris Beard. I love coaches like that are these alpha males that go anywhere they go, they win. And so let me say something real quick. I know we're going to wrap up here. Go ahead, and we're going to start varying some times on these things. And as we keep developing with our executive producer, Brenden Martin. But, Matt, awesome stuff. And get out today. Support all of our sponsors. We're redoing all the commercials and everything like that. So we missed some breaks today. But the Vitamin Shop, 5338 Goodman Road, Olive Branch, Mississippi, open Monday through Saturday, 9:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sundays, 10:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. You go in there. They've got healthcare specialists, nutritionists. They know what they're doing. Audrey and I shop there to buy the probiotics, the goo, the energy gels, like the shot blocks. They've got plans for everybody, supplements, recovery tools, You get one body. You get one trip to the plate. Make it count, okay? And look, everybody out there, viewers and sponsors and listeners.
Thanks, man. It was nice to meet you, by the way.
Brenden, I can't wait for the next time, man. Thank you very much. Appreciate
all right,
it.
Matt. Thank you so much.
We're gonna have fun, and I didn't know that he knew JR, Justin Ross. Justin is just one of my favorite people in the world. He's also with FedEx and ended up moving over to the Netherlands, to Amsterdam for a couple of years, and brought his family back. I coached his daughter, BR, Britton Ross. I called her BR the PR, one of the favorite kids I've ever coached in the whole family. And his wife, Bethany, of course, is an Alabama grad. But you'll love this. His mom owns a bar up in Gilted Edge, Tipton County, just north of Memphis. Just one of my favorite people, fellow parishioner at St. Louis Catholic Church. But, man, Brenden, we'll knock it off now. I'll be back on in the morning. Got a great lineup. But, damn, man, it's too much is never enough. This is awesome. And, you know, one thing, I love what he said. These coaches, why they're not there, because they're not willing to work that hard. You give them too much money and they're not hungry, that's what happens.
Got it. You got it. It's like the chicken on the stick, right? For the horses or whatever they get there. Yeah. Got to let them go. Never pay up front, half up front, half on delivery. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. It's no accident that our colors are the American flag, red, white, and blue. We love you. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. We're out of here.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shoppe health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievable.
Sidelines with Rob Browne.